Chapter 2. Clumsy Smurf hurried across the bridge toward the center of town.
"Oh, Smurf!" Clumsy exclaimed. "I'm late for rehearsal."
In the distance, he could see Smurfette, the only girl Smurf in the village, dancing under a banner that read, Blue Moon Festival. Clumsy watched her leap like a ballerina through the air. Smurfette was then caught by a group of Smurfs on the stage.
"I'm so late,"
he moaned, knowing that he should have been on that stage helping to catch Smurfette. The sound of flapping wings distracted Clumsy. Slowing his pace, he looked up. He paused for an instant as the two soaring storks, carrying Farmer and Greedy, sped through the sky. A deep and booming voice caught Clumsy's attention.
Each and every Smurf has his or her own personality, infused with love and sweetness.
Clumsy Smurf realized that Narrator Smurf had to be nearby. Then again, Narrator Smurf's loud voice traveled through the village easily. Narrator liked to explain what was going on and talk about things the Smurfs couldn't see for themselves. But Clumsy was still focused on watching those Smurf berries fall from the sky. So focused, in fact, that he ran smack into Handy Smurf. Handy was trying to fix the bridge. He'd been standing on a tall ladder when Clumsy hurried past. The ladder tipped when Clumsy blundered into it. Handy swung round and quickly grabbed for the side of the bridge, clinging on to the wooden rails for dear life.
Sorry, Handy,"
Clumsy apologized. It was an accident after all.
"No problem, Clumsy. You keep me employed,"
Handy said. Feeling confident that Handy was going to be all right, Clumsy continued on. He'd barely made it off the bridge when he managed to step onto an empty barrel that had been rolling in his path.
"Ah!"
Clumsy shrieked, struggling not to fall off as the barrel rolled him through the town. Clumsy passed Painter Smurf working on a festival banner and sped toward Baker Smurf.
"Hi, Baker! Nice pies!"
Clumsy called out before accidentally bashing into Baker. Oof! Baker was knocked to the ground, but he was used to cleaning up after a clumsy disaster.
3-second rule, Clumsy!"
he shouted after the barrel with a smile. Baker began to pick up and dust off his pies. When the barrel hit a rock, Clumsy crashed. Luckily, he wasn't hurt. But as he took his first step forward, Clumsy put his foot right into a pie that Baker had not yet scooped up. The pie filling was so slippery that Clumsy lost his balance. He tripped backward into Painter's festival banner, then bounced forward, flopping into an open wheelbarrow. This was all normal for Clumsy, so he didn't fret.
"Lovely visit,"
Clumsy called out to Painter just before the wheelbarrow rocketed down the road.
"Can't stay, it's rehearsal time."
Whether it's Clumsy Smurf, Baker Smurf, Handy Smurf, this time, Narrator really was nearby. He stood by the side of the road speaking into a TV camera.
"Hey, Narrator Smurf,"
Clumsy waved as he zoomed past in the wheelbarrow.
Hey, Clumsy.
Narrator replied in his low, resonant TV voice.
Just rehearsing the intro for the Blue Moon Festival.
Narrator tugged at his turtleneck collar, cleared his throat, and continued to practice.
Pizza.
Chef Smurf remarked as he crossed the street carrying 2 pizzas. He was always admiring his gooey cheese-coated creations and didn't notice Clumsy wheeling down the street. Without warning, Clumsy's cart rammed into Chef. Chef fell into the cart, joining Clumsy on the ride. His gourmet pizzas flew up high into the air. Clumsy! Chef watched as his pizzas rocketed into the atmosphere. The wheelbarrow hurried past Papa Smurf, the village elder, who watched it zip by like a speeding race car. "Help!" Chef cried out, but Papa couldn't get there fast enough. Chef fell out of the wheelbarrow and landed with a crash. At that exact moment, his pizzas were landing too. With lightning reflexes, Chef scrambled to catch both pies. Clumsy was still traveling in the wheelbarrow.
"Sorry,"
I'll pay for that, Clumsy called out, thinking that the pizzas were ruined. Chef examined the pizzas, chilled from their trip into outer space. A smile crossed his face. There was no need for Clumsy to pay. I just invented frozen pizzas, Chef cheered. Genius! Clumsy could only smile and nod, since the wheelbarrow was now aimed at a table surrounded by some other Smurfs. Clumsy shouted a warning, Smurf on the loose! An instant later, he hit the table at full speed and popped out of the wheelbarrow. When Clumsy landed on the tabletop, the Smurfs there were friendly and greeted him as he went surfing by. Hey, Clumsy! Duh! Clumsy shrieked. He was out of control, headed straight toward Jokey Smurf's house. Seconds later, Clumsy tumbled in through Jokey's window and skidded across his kitchen table. Hi, Jokey! Clumsy waved as he passed through. Hi, Clumsy! Jokey greeted his fast-moving friend. The jokester had been busily putting prank toys inside yellow packages and tying them with red ribbons. Clumsy somersaulted out Jokey's front door, and finally, like an Olympic gymnast at the end of a routine, Clumsy finished his wild ride through Smurf Village, landing firmly on 2 blue feet, safe and sound at last. Who's clumsy now, huh? Clumsy announced, standing proudly outside Jokey's house. He dusted himself off, glad to be back on solid ground. Jokey Smurf came outside. What do you get when you cross a Smurf with a cow? Jokey asked. Blue cheese! Jokey Smurf began to laugh. He held out a yellow package tied with a red ribbon. I got you a present! Clumsy refused to take the box. Oh, no thanks, Jokey. I'm late for rehearsal. Shaking his head, Clumsy began to rush away. Jokey chased after him. No, wait! Suddenly, the package erupted in Jokey's hands. Jokey looked at the torn and slightly burned yellow wrapping paper and the shreds of red ribbon. He laughed to himself. Clumsy was very, very late to the Blue Moon Festival rehearsal. But by the time he reached the stage entrance, he was just relieved that he'd made it in one piece. Clumsy headed toward the practice, only to be stopped by Grouchy Smurf and Gutsy Smurf. Hey, Grouchy! Hey, Gutsy! They were blocking his way. Behind the 2 Smurfs, Clumsy could see dozens of Smurfs practicing a song and dance routine. Clumsy tried to move past. Whoa, whoa, whoa! Slow your roll, sailor! Grouchy wouldn't let him go by. Clumsy rose up on his toes to see behind Grouchy. Wait! Isn't that the rehearsal for the Blue Moon Festival? On the festival stage, Clumsy could see the Smurfs working out the steps to a musical number. Wonderful! Beautiful! Vanity Smurf exclaimed, directing the dancers. Only Vanity wasn't actually talking about the dance. He was talking about his own reflection in his handheld mirror. Oh, marvelous! Vanity continued to praise himself. In the hallway, Grouchy looked down at the piece of paper he was holding, then shook his head. What can I say, Clumsy? You're not on the list! Squinting, Clumsy pointed to the paper in Grouchy's hands. Grouchy, it's right there! Gutsy grabbed the list from Grouchy and took a look for himself. Then he showed Clumsy that his name was written there all right, just under a special heading. It's under Do Not Let In. Clumsy began to argue with both of them. That's when Brainy Smurf arrived. Clearly, you 2 lack the verbal skills required to explain this predicament succinctly, Brainy said. Grouchy shook his head at Brainy and sighed. Here we go. You see, Clumsy, Brainy began, ignoring Grouchy's comment, the other Smurfs don't want to dance with you for fear of what are politely called fractures. Oh, how could anybody think that? Clumsy gestured wildly with his hands in the air, accidentally hitting both Grouchy and Gutsy in the face. Ow! Gutsy and Grouchy exclaimed at the same time. Brainy shook his head. That's going to leave a big blue bruise, he remarked snootily. Then Brainy quickly took a step away from Clumsy and began to chuckle. There was no way he was going to get bruised, too. but Gutsy and Grouchy each gave him a kick on his way out, just to be fair. Brainy soared up and up like a football headed toward a goalpost. Ah! He screamed as he flew through the air. Finally, he crash-landed on the stage, slamming into the dancing Smurfs, knocking them down like bowling pins. "Hey!" one Smurf called from the bottom of the pile. "Hey, what are you doing?" another Smurf asked Brainy. Vanity set aside his mirror, but only for a second. "Cut, cut, cut," he said. "It's a dance, not dominoes." Vanity quickly picked the mirror back up and glared into it. "Ah, a worry line." Hefty Smurf flexed his big, strong biceps.
All right, don't get your pedals in a twist.
He began to dig Smurfs out of the heap. With so many injured Smurfs, Clumsy wanted to help. He left the rehearsal and headed toward Papa Smurf's mushroom to get first aid supplies. Meanwhile, just as the Smurfs got ready to try the dance again, Narrator Smurf showed up and reported some news. As happy and as perfect as life in Smurf Village is, even sunshine and butterflies have their dark clouds. And for all Smurfs, that dark cloud has one name: Gargamel, the evil wizard. Whack! Lightning cracked. All the Smurfs on the festival stage looked up at the sky. Smurfette shivered in her high-heeled shoes. Her voice trembled.
All right, guys, let's get back to the rehearsal.
Yeah. Come on, guys, let's do this, Hefty agreed, encouraging them to focus on the dance rehearsal. Smurfette pulled herself together. She turned on the music and got back to business.
And Smurf 6, 7, 8.
But Narrator was watching the ominous encroaching clouds and wondering what he'd be reporting next.